sure, the opponent out there might be better than you. He might beat you, but I guarantee you and I promise you he's going to beat you if you're telling yourself that. If you're if you don't have the ability to say, I'm going to at least stand up and I'm going to try and I'm going to give everything I've got. If you can't do that much, then it's over already.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
Welcome back to the Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast, everybody. Very happy to have you guys here. We had a lot of fun last week with reading some short stories. A lot of people seem to really enjoy that, and they're asking about if it's going to be a regular staple of the podcast. Definitely will have a place in the segment which we did last week, which was the prompt. You find some Polaroids and they lead you to a treasure, but once you get there, you find out you're not alone. Definitely send those short stories into the Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast at gmail.com. We want to have a lot of them come in so we can pick one to read, not next week, but the week after. So we're going to read one then, and then we're going to drop another prompt, and you guys will have a chance to submit another one. We've been having so much fun getting to read all of these different short stories. It really feels like we're in the renaissance of men's adventure fiction, and it's cool to have, I don't know about you guys, but I love short stories. I love serialized fiction. I love stories that come at you and they make you want more, and we had a lot of those last week. I want to see what happens with all of those characters. I want to see Lawson. I want to see Dustin again. Everyone in there, so cool. I mean, Sam and Luke from the one opening scene and the rest of the crew. Yeah, dude. Very exciting, the future of men's adventure fiction. And submit your story to be on the cutting edge. I mean, if you're here already, you're already on the cutting edge of men's adventure fiction. So, and I'm happy to be here with you, my brother, Luke. How are you doing, my friend?
Dude, I'm good. Yeah, it's great to see you. These are always the highlights of my night here. I throw up the Zoom and talk to my friend Nathaniel. Tonight's going to be a cool episode because we're going over some of our favorite quotes. Not necessarily all from adventure fiction books, but things that strike the heart of man that we're always talking about.
For sure.
So I think it's going to be a cool episode that could lead to some really good discussions. But before we do dive into that, I just want to springboard off what you said I've been feeling that same way too, seeing the Discord come alive and reading the stories, and just the community that's building here is very cool, and it makes you realize that we really all are in. This is the moment. This is the moment where we're trying to build men's adventure fiction back, and everybody doing these things and having all these great ideas and people telling us what their plans are. It's so cool that this is literally getting built up from the ground right now, and being a part of it with you guys is really meaningful to me. So thank you, and thank you, Nathaniel, for really being a captain and leader for all this stuff. I don't know what Discord is without you. So you're the man. You did this, and my cat wants to be involved too, and that's not going to happen today.
That's how it is, dude. I'm wearing this hat because of that Instagram post you posted a couple days ago. Mentally here, dude. That post was so fun. All of those art. It's literally. I was swiping through these, dude, this is exactly what I wish I was doing today.
Right.
This is exactly what I wish I was doing today. Swiped to the next one. This is exactly what I wish I was doing today. So you're doing a great job too of fostering this community. Like I said, if it wasn't for your Instagram, I would not be here right now. You're the proof that social media isn't always bad.
Right.
So
We're
well
doing
done,
some
my
stuff.
friend.
Trying to do some good stuff with it.
Yeah. One other thing though, you have the Halloween Spooktacular event going on right now, right?
I do, and we have Grayson Sullivan's first stories up right now, so
awesome.
You guys need to go check that out. It's called Matter of Time, and it's sick.
Very
I like
cool.
it. So if you like men's adventure fiction and you're in the spooky mood like me, it's Halloween season, you want to read some spooky stuff, check it out. It's good times. So thanks for plugging that.
Yeah, we'll link it below. It's narrative-compass.com.
Yes.
Yeah, super cool stuff. It's to have men's adventure fiction combined with horror, knocking it out of the park. But yeah, let's dive right into the topic.
All right, my friend, who should go first with the quote? Who do you want to start with?
I can jump right in.
All right, let's hear from Nathaniel. What do you
You
got
know, I
for
had
us,
to
sir?
go with my main man, Louis L'Amour.
Obviously.
If we don't talk about him every episode, what are we doing?
Well, I think we have like a obligation at this point. There's like this hidden, invisible entity with a gun holding it to our heads, saying you must talk about Louis L'Amour. If not, you're
It's
doing
his
something wrong.
ghost, dude. It's Louis
him,
L'Amour's ghost. Now, this quote is really, it's near and dear to me, but it's also interesting because I don't agree with it 100%. So I'll go ahead and read it. Only the innocent speak of adventure, for adventure is only a romantic name for trouble. And one is having adventures, one wishes it was all over and he was elsewhere and safe. Adventure is not nice. It is more often than not rough and dirty, cruel and harsh. Louis L'Amour. I think that quote is so cool because it really does highlight that, like, we all love adventure until you're in the middle of it, right? Until your car's tire goes flat in the middle of driving to a hike and you have to sit on the side of the road and change the tire and you're chewing into the time that you have to hike and you're like, oh crap, this sucks. But then like a couple of days later, you go up to your friends and like, dude, you're not going to believe what happened to me the other day. I'm like miles into the woods here. Been on this dirt road for like at least 5 miles. All of a sudden, my tire's flat. You already got a cool adventure story to tell.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I was telling you, when we first talked about pitching this idea, I told you about this quote. And there's this story of, I'm probably 15, 16, 17 at the time. And me and my buddies are like, there's this abandoned tower where we lived in Delaware. We're like, let's go find it. And we get directions from this girl. And she gave us clear directions, but they weren't as clear as she thought because there were 2 different paths into the woods. And we go down the one path, and nothing's there. We're like, we've been looking. We hiked probably quarter mile in, half a mile in. And then we get to a duck blind, and I look over, and across the field, like a bunch of bulrushes type of stuff, a couple hills. I'm like, dude, there it is. And my buddies are like, yeah, let's just go back to the car. We'll drive over to the other one and go over. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, we can go.
We're adventurers.
Yeah, we can see it from here. We can see it. We can walk to it. Like, you should put that in it. That's the next quote. If you see it, you can walk with it. You heard it here. Like 2 hours later, dude, we're not even there yet. We've been in water up to our chest. Every time there's a hill, I always say to them, they're like plotting behind me. I'm like, all right, guys, you got to believe me. It's over this hill. We get over the hill. They're all about to kill me because nothing's there. We finally get there, and we have a great time. But I got loads of poison ivy afterwards, and it was not fun in the moment. I mean, it was, looking back, it's one of the highlights of my life. But I remember like thinking, first of all, if we have to go over one more hill and then do another swamp, these dudes are going to kill me. I'm not going to make it out of the swamp. One of them's going to step on my foot, and the other's going to dunk me in, and they're going to be like, oh, crap, we lost Nathaniel in the swamp. Like, but then it was also, like, literally grueling. It's like 90 degrees out. It's so stupid, but it's the stuff like that makes incredible adventures. So that's why I said I agree with it, but I don't agree with it, because you are in these miserable things. But I think that either the purely innocent speak of adventure in a kind of way that is not true to what it is, but then also the initiated, the people who have had to like sleep in 15-degree weather and not die, or the people who went camping when it was 96 degrees at night and you're literally drenched in sweat, or when you wander through the bulrushes for 2 hours and your friends hate you afterwards. Then you can talk about adventure, and it takes on it shifts the meaning completely. And I think Louis L'Amour would agree with that. I mean, he's got a whole entire series about adventure stories, and the man lived the adventure. He was a tramp sailor. He was a hobo. He was an adventurer.
A boxer, a lumberer. I mean, he's done way too many jobs. More jobs than I've had, like, days on this earth, basically.
Yeah, man, what a cool dude. What an inspiring guy. So when you read something like this from him, you know that it's also hedged by being in those dangerous situations and really being, like we talk about all the time, like Louis L'Amour was a man of action. I know you got a video of him just absolutely tearing up the heavy bag, and it's like, how does Louis L'Amour beat writer's block? He literally beats up the punching bag, dude.
He gets after my writer's block up.
Yeah,
that's a great quote, dude, and good perspective too. I just had someone comment on that post that you were talking about, like the mentally I'm here, saying that same thing of like, when you're actually in these moments, getting blown up in like war, not as fun. But totally from a fictional point, or like afterwards, you can talk about them. But in it, totally different thing. And that's where I think I brought this up in one of the earlier episodes, so I won't harp on it too much. But I love keeping that philosophy in your head about men's adventure fiction and living the adventure and being that hero for when you feel like, oh, I'm messing this up, or like I don't know what I'm doing in life, or like this stuff's all overwhelming. That's exactly what adventure feels like. And this cat really likes this episode, dude. Really likes it.
Keep that cat on the screen.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what you like. It's so true. If you have that mindset in your everyday life, like some people right now are going through the hardest time of their life. Right. And if you get so caught up in this microscopic, like this is the only thing that's ever happening and this is all it's ever going to be, you can lose that view of this is just adventure by any other name, And in 4 or 5 years after like these wounds have healed and things have gotten better and you're able to process it a little better, this can be something that really, really helps someone else in the same shoes. Like everything we go through gives us the opportunity to have the chance to speak positively into someone who's going through something very similar down the road. It's just more stuff that forges a heart of steel that can stand up to crazy things. And I think it's exactly what you said. If you can pull yourself out of the immediate and the now and kind of try and like remember, like hopefully, and most of the time, this isn't going to last. Like God's got a bigger plan going on here, and it's hard to see that, but I'm just going to keep fighting through it because, I mean, like the quote says, it's not nice. More often than not, it's rough, dirty, cruel, and harsh. And that could just be true about life in general. So I think it definitely does. I mean, you said it perfectly. I don't know why I've been talking. Should have just...
Everything you said was beautiful. Everything you said was perfect. And yeah, just to close that book is like, not every time are you going to look back, like Nathaniel said, and be like, this is one of my favorite moments. Like, you might look back, and that still might be a horrible, painful thing. But as Nathaniel put it, it can help either someone else, or regardless, it's going to help you further, like, your heart and, like, strengthen your character and your resolve. And it's just going to make you a stronger version of yourself. It goes back to one of the biggest cliches in the world, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like, that's going to happen. Even the things that I've been through that I don't want to repeat, I'm not looking back as, like, fond. Mm-hmm. They made me who I am, and I'm able to go into new situations and say, okay, I know I've made it through that, so, like, this is going to be fine. You know what I mean? So, great quote to start us with, man. Fantastic.
Thank you.
I like it. And Louis L'Amour, can't go wrong with him. So.
Yeah, thank Louis L'Amour. He's killing it.
Because I'm also going Louis L'Amour, all right? We're going to go from Louis to Louis. And the whole list is not Louis, we promise you. But
only 2/3 of I'm just
We're going to start with 2 Louis. Mine is, today is all we have. Tomorrow is a mirage that may never become a reality. I love that one. I mean, like, dude, it's so good. It instantly makes me think of my favorite quote in the Rocky franchise, which is, there is no tomorrow. Apollo and Rocky are sparring. He's getting him ready for the end fight in Rocky 3. And Rocky's, like, depressed, and he's out of it, and he doesn't believe in himself, and he's just taking shots from Apollo, just getting slammed, probably getting brain damage left and right, just getting destroyed. And Apollo's like, what's the matter with you? And Rocky's like, nah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll just train tomorrow. Relax. And he's like, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. And it's like, that's so true, because not only do we not know the day that we die. Like, I straight up could die in my sleep tonight. You could get hit by a car tomorrow. You have no clue when you're going to die. So not only on that factor does it make, a lot of sense, and you should hold to it, but I think even, going out of the super dramatic, like, oh, we're going to die, too many people say, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. I'm going to start writing my book next week. I'm going to do that. People push things off. They push their lives away. They just, like, will think of anything, any excuse they can. Well, I got, like, for me, I said I have this training coming up this week. I have so much stuff going on. So I could be like, well, I got, like, a busy day at work. I got, like, a lot of notes. I'm not going to start right. If I keep doing that, you're pushing your future. You're literally dismissing yourself into some timeline that you might not get. So you got to seize the moment. You got to seize today, because it's the only thing you have. And that's why I love that quote.
Yeah. Very well said. It's also interesting too that if you make pushing it till, oh, I'll do it at this point, then that almost becomes a habit, right? So
Right.
if it was true that you would start on Monday or you'd start on the new year and you actually did it, that wouldn't be too bad. But usually what ends up happening is you're like, oh man, the new year's already filled up. Like, I'll just push that later. And I think it does kind of cut to the chase of like the things that we really care about, we will find a way to make time for. And you have to. And it's interesting too to juxtapose this quote with the previous quote, which is talking about like being in the middle of danger in a bad time. It's like, even when that's happening, even when these terrible things are happening in your life, this is a moment to still live through. I think it's so easy, maybe not necessarily this culture, or maybe it's just humans in general, but I know for the longest time when I had like work, 5 days of work or 5 days of school before I got to hang out with my friends on the weekend, it's like, oh, I can just check out for 5 days and then I'll come back to life on the weekends and I'll have like 2 days of good times hanging out with the buddies. We'll be running around outside, and then I'll go back into like sleep mode for the next 5 days. And it's like, no man, every single moment we get is a gift. And you never, like, it's just what, like the quote said, you never know when, just like that, it's gone. And so if you're not, I mean, obviously don't like spend 23 of 24 hours awake trying to like fulfill all your goals. like be willing to say no and have boundaries to certain things, but also be willing to say yes to things that are going to help you grow as a person. I think that's such a good quote, man.
What came to me a lot when I was facing my own kind of like mortality and stuff with my medical issues was just how simple and easy it is to like waste your life because of exactly what you were talking about of like, oh, let me just sleepwalk through this. I got something cool coming up. That's what I'm going to wait for. And even if it's not that, even if it's like, oh, I'll be happy once I've sold such and such books, or I'll be happy once I've made a movie, whatever you put as like your, oh, over here, I'm going to be happy. Wasting a life is like such a quiet, easy, sneaky thing that happens to people. And you wake up one day and you realize like, dude, I like have not been taking any, like I've not been grateful for what I have. I haven't, cause like if it is that thing from Fight Club, if someone put a gun to your head, like there will be a moment where you just kind of get a clarity of like, dude, I have so much in front of me. Yeah. And if you can intentionally just bring that to yourself right now, like, look how much I have in front of me. A roof over my head, food in my belly, like people that love me, that's more than most people can say and is on the planet. Like, you might not think that, but you're in a great position. We live better than kings did back in the day. That's how we live now. Like, you've got a lot going for you, so you have to be grateful and use that gratitude as, like Nathaniel was saying, like, this is a gift. Let me do something with this. Let me like, you know, make good use of my time because I'm thankful, because I'm grateful, because I love this world. And that's where it comes in. Like, I'm doing this out of love for myself and for the world, not out of, like, some hate or some need or, like, need for self-improvement. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not like you're doing it to have yourself filled up. You're doing it to fill up other people. And you're not trying to, like, if you write for approval or you do anything for approval, as soon as that well shuts off, you're going to be like, oh, man, what's wrong with me? Like, people don't love me anymore. But if you write out of the, like, approval and understanding of who you already are as a person, or you do anything, like, if I do the dishes just so my wife likes me, like, if I do the dishes and she doesn't notice, I'm gonna be like, crap, what am I, like, I'm never doing the dishes again. Like, she doesn't even like me when I do the dishes. But if I, like, know that this is something that I can give to her, it no longer is about me, and it shifts the perspective entirely.
Dude, perfect. Yeah.
But, go ahead.
Go ahead. What I was gonna say is, like, for me, growing up, when I was younger, I used to be really into fitness for that very reason of, like, oh, if I look a certain way, I'm gonna get a certain type of attention, or, like, you know what I mean? It was all about, I'm doing this for that external. I'm doing it for this validation. Right. And if you're just seeking validation constantly, like, that is a shaky base to build yourself on, because as soon, like you said, as soon as that's gone, as soon as that person says, I don't like that, as soon as that person's, like, giving you no attention, you let your identity crumble in on itself. And it's like, that's not, if you build it on character and values that are important and intrinsically motivating to you, then you can't be stopped, because it's you. Like, you're the one driving things forward. And that's what I think a man of action should do, is, like, he should be his own engine. He should be his own driving force, and, like, not the attention or validation
Right.
So
He should be doing cool things because he's cool.
right.
Not doing things because they're cool to try and make himself cool.
Right, not to be sick. All right. That's all I've got to say on that one, though. I think that I love that quote.
Yeah, that's a really good quote. I really like that one. It definitely puts things into perspective. Like, life is finite. Take advantage of it while you can.
Yeah.
Way to say, Louis. You can't beat Louis L'Amour.
Louis, you're the man. Thank you for those 2 quotes, Louis. We love you.
All right. Enough on Louis for this week. Tune back next week for more
Right.
Louis L'Amour. Should we change the name to the Louis L'Amour podcast?
We're going to have to at some point, you know?
All right. Now jumping to another one of my favorite men's adventure fiction writers, a prolific pulp writer. We're talking about Edgar Rice Burroughs. Now this is a little less, we got pretty deep there talking with those quotes. This one's actually more just a perfect quote for this podcast. Here we go. No fiction is worth reading except for entertainment. If it entertains and is clean, it is good literature, or its kind. If it forms the habit of reading in people who might not read otherwise, it is the best literature.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think that is that's like the motto of this podcast, right? Like,
Yeah.
We're not here talking about A Portrait of Dorian Gray or A Tale of Two Cities, which are good books. Like, they have great meaning, but they're harder to understand. They're not as entertaining. They don't grab attention as much. And I think that line here, if it forms the habit of reading in people who might not read otherwise, it is the best literature. I mean, that's so true. And I think that's so true. It was true then in like 1920 when he wrote it, but 100 years later, dude, when people's noses are just in their phone and not a book. I mean, if you polled 100 people on the streets, if what the last book they read is, like, would they be able to tell you? Would they have read a book? Would it have been like a high school book?
Yeah.
And I think that's because, especially for men, like, this is not an attack on the thriller genre at all. But there is definitely a difference between men's adventure fiction and thrillers. And thrillers can oftentimes get into more like political intrigue, and you have a bigger cast of characters, and there's more attention that needs to be paid to specific details, or else you're going to be lost in the sauce for sure. I mean, I've admitted it myself. I do not have the attention span for a lot of thrillers. I remember reading Rainbow Six the first time, and I don't remember how many characters there are. All I remember, though, is Domingo. I don't even remember his last name, but he was like the special ops guy. And I remember like reading this book, and someone important shows up, and I'm like, I don't know where I need to like flip back through this book to try to figure out who that was. So I think that it's super interesting to have men's adventure fiction, the pulps, stuff that was made specifically for people who didn't have a lot of time to read. And I think that's why we're seeing kind of like this revitalization of the short story form, because people want something that they can get a full story in like under 10 pages or under, I don't know, 3,000 words, 5,000 words, under 20,000 words, something that they can read in like an hour or less, and then they finish it and like, man, kind of want to read some more. And
Right.
I think the amount of people in America today who have said, I kind of want to read some more, is way too low, and it's sad how low it is.
True. So every short story should be kind of like a pitch, and to hook them in, to make them say,
Yes.
man, I wish I could read more. That quote gets me fired up, because I probably am defensive. I was going to say I'm not defensive, but like I feel like I am a little defensive when people are like dismissive of certain genres, even if it's not our genre of men's adventure fiction. If it's, oh, that's sci-fi, or oh, that's this, oh, that's that. Well, it's not literature. It's like, you're not being fair. It is, and it has just as much merit. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe it's not for you, but for someone it is. And like some book that you see as like is someone's like treasure. You know what I mean? Like, it's so important to them, and that's been the case for me. I've learned so much more from some of these like schlock books that are pulpy than I have like full-blown literature. And I just, like you said, and like the quote says, the important part is that you're reading. The important part is that you're engaging. I think I'm going to have to bring Louis L'Amour back, where I think he says a book is not as important for what it says, but what it makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it doesn't matter what the book is. If you have an engagement with it, if you have a certain, like, back and forth with it in your mind, intellectually, like, conversating with the text, then that's important. That's what literature is, and that's all the book needs to do, and it's done its job. And I think as men, and as a certain type of man that is gravitating towards men's adventure fiction, we have this mindset or set of philosophies, or these constructive building blocks that come to the genre, and they just fit perfectly with what it's bringing. And then that's why these hit so hard for us, because we are a certain type of person. Just like a certain type of person is kind of like a super literary, kind of like a scientist when they're coming at it, and they love to dissect books and sentence structure. And give them a literature book, give them, Ulysses, and they'll talk about it and they'll love it.
Or an encyclopedia.
It's all about the human coming at it and with what they bring as a person. What are their psychological building blocks? So if you've got the building blocks for men's adventure fiction, if you were born and bred on 80s action movies like me, this is where you're going to find your stuff, man. And you can't discount it because you don't think it's serious enough.
Right. Yeah, very well said. And the cool thing, too, is today, any information that's in these books, anytime they're talking about locations and stuff like that, the amount of people that are fact-checking stuff and the amount of, like, flack that someone's going to get for inaccurately describing a firearm or saying that this happens in India and it doesn't, is, like, everyone's making sure that they're putting true information in their books for the most part. I mean, some stuff is just completely made up, and that's how it is. But there's a place in between, like right on the border of Switzerland and Italy, that I know about and read about, and know that its elevation is 6,000 feet above sea level because of a Chester Drum book that talks about it, because a big scene happens there. And it's like, I literally have a Google search in my phone looking at this place, and it's somewhere that I want to go on vacation now. So I think that it's also like, sometimes I feel embarrassed when I say, like, oh yeah, I read a lot, and so, oh well, you must be well read. I'm like, have not read a lot of literature. Let me stop you right there. I read 99 books last year, and only like 15 of them were classic. Like, the rest were just great pulp stories, and I learned stuff. And I think that that's what's cool, is like, if you're reading to learn things, you're going to learn things no matter what. You're going to know how many grains of lead are in a 9mm bullet or a 38 special cartridge. You're going to know how many rounds of a 357 Magnum holds. You're just going to know things that's going to be like, if your goal for reading is trivia, anything you read is going to give you trivia. So I think it's also, like, interesting too that, like, you don't need to be embarrassed about what you read. The fact that you're reading is already incredible enough. Right? That's incredibly rare. But I love that quote about no fiction is worth reading except for entertainment. And I think that's like, I feel embarrassed sometimes when I went to school for digital filmmaking. And my top favorite movies, like the only one that's critically acclaimed would be Casablanca. The rest are like action movies that are just near and dear to my heart. And I always feel embarrassed saying, like, yeah, I went to film school. My favorite movie is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And people are like, what?
You can't do that.
It's good. Now I know how to hang off of a train if I ever need to do it. Now I know that I need to do more pull-ups so I can do that.
And dude, I think we'd be remiss to not bring up, I think it's Frank Theodat who mentioned in the Discord once about how it's very interesting. You look back at the history of who we look at as literature now, like Jack London being a great, easy example too of like, he was writing men's adventure fiction. He was writing what we're talking about, but then because of time, people look at him more seriously. Like, look at this. Hemingway, I mean, a lot of his stories are war stories or like men's adventure fiction for the most part. Of course, some of them are not. Some of them are more literature-based, like Sun Also Rises and stuff. But he was writing adventure stories. A lot of these guys who were considered like, whoa, this guy's a great literary figure, was writing men's adventure fiction at the time. It was market fiction. It was like, best-selling market fiction, whatever that term is. It was that, and we just took it years and years and years, and then we realized, oh, this does have a lot of merit. So people just aren't giving it, the credit that's due to
well
it.
Said, dude. And that's
from Frank Theodat right there.
Yeah, I mean, even Terrence on our episode when we talked about Alan Quartermain, he said that too. He was like, I think they were pulps, but they just lasted so long that everyone was like, yep, this is a classic.
Yeah, because that's how we talked about Three Musketeers and
Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, Count of Monte Cristo. All of Dumas' stuff is pulp and was serialized pulp.
Well,
and then now they're like, it's classic.
wasn't Sherlock Holmes serialized?
I think so. I don't know
Someone
much about
fact check
Sherlock.
me.
Yeah.
But Sherlock Holmes is like the greatest literary character of all time to a lot of people. But he was essentially a pulp. Like, it's crazy that
Right.
that for some reason the sands of time pick and choose these people to be pushed aside as worthless, and then the others, like, yeah, they're, I don't know what to tell you, they're just the greatest stories of all time. Um, but let this just be an opportunity for you to realize, if you feel bad for writing men's adventure fiction or pulps or fantasies or sci-fis or whatever you're writing, don't feel bad. Write stuff that's entertaining to people, and they're going to keep coming back for it, and that's really what matters.
Beautiful. All right, so for my next quote, it is not necessarily from men's adventure fiction. It's not necessarily from fiction or an author. It's a quote from famed boxing trainer Customato, who trained Mike Tyson, most famously, I'd say. And it's a quote that says, "To see a man not beaten by a better opponent, but by himself, is a tragedy." And I love that quote, dude. That is like one of my favorite quotes as a counselor and stuff like that. It's one of my like go-to, or like kind of, it builds the ethos for what I'm trying to do and what's so important about all this to me. Because I think, goes to everybody who's watching this. It goes to you, Nathaniel. It goes to my son and daughter. It goes to anybody out there. It's like, you have so much potential. Like, you have so much you could do. And often the things that get in our way aren't the real obstacles. They're not like rejection or this or that. It's literally us telling ourselves no. It's us doing a form of suicide in a way that we won't take on certain risks. We won't take on certain challenges. We will limit ourselves to this very dulled, sleepwalking version of ourselves that we're comfortable living in. And that's like like it says, that's one of the biggest tragedies, is when someone doesn't take on their fight. Like, everyone has their fight. Everyone has their thing in life that they're supposed to do. And if you beat yourself and you don't go after that hurts me. And that's why I'm like so passionate about that with counseling and putting that stuff into the books and doing this podcast with you. Like, to think someone out there who watches this wants to write and wants to be the next, Louis L'Amour, and they're like, I don't know if I can write. What if I'm not that talented? It's like, all those questions are just like, take those away. Stop it. Because you just do it. Like, just write. Just do what you're meant to do. Fight. Take the losses. Take the hits. And keep going. Like, keep trying. If you don't do that, like, that's the biggest tragedy of your life. Like, that's worse than death.
Yeah, very well said. Or even like, maybe it's intentional. Like, maybe you choose, like, even if it's a sporting thing, it's like, oh, well, they're gonna beat me. I can't admit to myself that I'm not as good as somebody else, so I'm just not gonna try my hardest. Or like, oh, if I submit this manuscript to a publisher, they're probably gonna turn me down, so I'm not even gonna write it because I don't want to feel bad about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's crazy to think about that. Like, when you're fully alive, what are you capable of? And what are we doing every single day to dull ourselves so that we can never come fully alive, so that we can never face our true potential, so we can never feel that ultimate pain when we still aren't good enough, or when things don't go the way that we plan. I mean, so many things that happen aren't because you're not like a skilled enough writer. It's just because sometimes things just don't fall into place. Everything that happens bad to you isn't a reflection of your character or who you are as a person. It's just like random, and I think that's hard to accept as a person.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that, like, if you do go after it and you have a good attitude and all this, that you're gonna just boom, 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 make it through to success, no issues. Like, it still means be willing to go through all the rejections, go through all the pain, go through all the people telling you, no, this does suck, and people might be mean about it sometimes, but like, that's again goes back to the being internally motivated and kind of like going after it on your own accord and having your own mission and having that self-sufficient mindset of no, this is important to me, and I think it's meaningful, and I'm going to make something of this, and I'm going to make something of myself, and just having that self-belief. To quote Rocky, kind of add to this one, is until you start believing in yourself, you're not going to have a life. It's that same essence of that quote. It's like, sure, the opponent out there might be better than you, he might beat you, but I guarantee you and I promise you he's going to beat you if you're telling yourself that. If you're if you don't have the ability to say, I'm gonna at least stand up and I'm gonna try and I'm gonna give everything I've got. If you can't do that much, then it's over already.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
Right. It reminds me a lot of that Teddy Roosevelt quote that he's like most famously quoted for, where it's like it's not the critic who matters, it's the person who's actually doing the thing. It was a terrible, I botched
Man
the
in the
quote.
arena. Man in the arena.
Yeah, man in the arena. Great quote. Don't have it memorized though.
It's a long
but
one.
it's so true. I mean, it's just like so many people speak out of fear when they see someone trying something, even if they're trying and they're failing. They're like, oh, it scares people to see someone trying to reach their full potential, because it makes them realize that there's areas in their life that they're not doing that. And I think too that on the flip side of that, if you as a person choose to believe in yourself and choose to fight for what you want, and if you decide to stop competing against others and start competing against yourself to make yourself better, there's like built into you this quiet confidence. It's like the tested man, like we talked about in the first episode and we've touched on so many times. If you see someone who's confident in who they are as a person, man or woman, anyone, and they just have that understanding of what they're capable of, and even understanding of what they're not capable of, you're going to be attracted to someone like that. Because I mean, and that's what's so good about men's adventure fiction too, is like you read about these characters who, sure, they fail, but they keep going after it. I mean, there's one of my favorite books is the crossover between Chester Drum and Shel Scott, and there's a whole entire section where Chet's fighting some guy, and the guy's not giving up, and Chet's not giving up, and they're just slugging it out at each other, and they like look at each other and they're like, I don't like you very much, but I gotta respect that you're just not giving up. Like,
Yeah.
You bastard, what are you doing? like just stay down. and he's saying that while he's also sitting down. He's like, you stay down. He's like, you're already down. He's like, I'm getting back up. Let's go at this again. And I think that that's just so true. It's like it's so inspiring to read about these characters who do understand what they're capable of and do know who they are, and they're not willing to take themselves out of the game because they're scared to fail. They're not willing to take themselves out of the game because the odds are too high. They see what stands before them and they go after it two-fisted, man. They're ready to take it on. And I think that's so cool. Just inspires you to be better.
Dude, what a great scene. What a great scene. And great imagery. Like, I don't think enough people have that belief. We have a lot of people in this day and age with social media that we were talking about the positives of it, but there are negatives. And I think one of the things is people have had this skewed view of what reality is and what men are supposed to look like or supposed to do, or like a level of achievement, because no one's being realistic on the internet, and people have these ideas, and so it makes people walk around with this low self-esteem, this low confidence, and people, so many men and women are just seeing themselves as like way lower than they are, and they're valuing themselves as so much lower. It's like, you gotta see yourself as worth it. You've got to see your efforts as worth it, and you got to move forward. But before I move on, you saying that scene reminded me of the fight between Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. They have a trilogy of fights, and they're my favorite boxing matches in history. But like, they absolutely slugged it out like that, like just absolutely drew a line in the sand. We're just slugging it out like an insane
like
slugfest,
dude. Robots.
Dude, like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, like you've never seen. And there's an amazing moment of like, when you say like heart in boxing, there's this amazing moment that'll just give you chills where Arturo Gatti takes his liver shot from Mickey Ward, and he goes down, and you see just literal like animalistic pain on this guy's face. Like, there's nothing like a liver shot, dude. And you can see that one was like, this is horrendous. Yeah. And Arturo Gatti rises back up, and he's wincing, and he like gets back up, and Mickey Ward like, son of a bitch, and he like has to come out there and like and keep going, and they both just absolutely hit each other with 90 punches within 5 seconds after that. And they do this for 3 consecutive fights, and there's a documentary about their trilogy, and like by the end you realize how like they became best friends, and like they respected and loved each other so much. And it's like, once you're in this world and you're doing this, and you're finding people who are going after this the same way you are, like me and Nathaniel as writers, and everyone in the Discord as writers, like it's those people who you'll value, and you'll have these brotherhoods and these real connections with, and like that, those are the voices that you should look to and to have to help you carry on when things are tough and people are like giving you a bad review or something on Amazon, or something negative happens where you're like doubting yourself. It's the people who are tested and are doing the same thing as you that can help bring you back up, because you guys are forged in that same fire. So wanted to bring that and tie that in, because that scene sounded sick and it reminded me of that fight, and I think there's something to that of like that shared experience and that shared philosophy of testing yourself and being a part of something bigger and more meaningful.
Yeah, dude, that's just perfect. That's a perfect way to end this conversation. Yeah, that's so cool.
So now what are your quotes, sir? What is it? What are you got?
All right. This is hard pressed to say it's my favorite quote of all time, but it is really, really good. And this is by Raymond Chandler. Now, down these mean streets a man must go who is not himself mean, who is neither tarnished nor afraid. He is the hero. He is everything. He must be a complete man and a common man, and yet an unusual man. He must be, to use a rather weathered phrase, a man of honor, by instinct, by inevitability, without thought of it, and certainly without saying it. He must be the best man in his world and a good enough man for any world. He will take no man's money dishonestly, and no man's insolent without a due and dispassionate revenge. He is a lonely man, and his pride is that you will treat him as a proud man, or be very sorry you ever saw him. The story is this man's adventure in search of a hidden truth, and it would be no adventure if it did not happen to a man fit for adventure. If there were enough like him, the world would be a very safe place to live in without becoming too dull to be worth living in.
Wow. That quote's almost so good that I don't even know what to touch on with that. That is like perfectly encapsulating.
Dude, I'm getting chills reading it. It literally is like, if you don't read that quote and think, this is what I need to put this up, like, first thing when I sit up in bed in the morning, I'm looking at that on my wall, because I need to be, this line here, let me see it. He is the best man in his world and good enough man for any world. The dispassionate revenge, I think, is such a, we could talk about dispassion for so long, because I think that's what so many modern stories and movies get wrong. And one of my really good friends, a really great mentor of mine, he talked about Batman and how in a lot of these Batman movies now, Batman is like angry and he's fighting out of anger, and it's passionate anger, whereas dispassion is like you see that there's wrong in the world and you're doing something about it, and you're not getting your feelings all tangled up in it, and it's not now becoming your identity. And so to some degree, Batman is no better than his enemies, because he's not able to control his passions and they're running rampant within him. And that could be true for any character that you read about. And I think that it's interesting because you want to push a character when you're writing to a place where his passions do get involved, right? The stakes are so high that he's now, not only is he fighting to beat his opponent, he's also fighting to control himself and beat himself. I think, I haven't written it yet, but one of my favorite quotes that I'm going to write into a story is a character says to Nate Colt, like, get angry, but don't let it affect your aim. And it comes back to what you said in Vipers, like, a rational man was always much harder to deal with, because when you have a character who is not running around willy-nilly, like we were just talking before we were recording, if like someone looks at you wrong at the bar and you just start swinging at them, like, you're out of control, dude. like you need to settle down. Like maybe you got some really sick bar fight stories, and if you have them, drop them in the comments. We'll read them. We'll definitely eat that up. But also, like, we have to control our emotions. We can't just, like, you know how many people disrespect you in a single day? Like, so many. If you just got into a fist fight with any of them, you'd be in jail.
Right.
Yeah, I love it's this man's adventure in search of a hidden truth, and it would be no adventure if it did not happen to a man fit for it. I think that that's so cool. It's like if you see a story or a book or even in your life and you get caught up in one of these crazy, dangerous situations and you're not prepared for it. I mean, anytime that I'm in a position where I don't have, like even my brother-in-law and sister-in-law went with me to pick up some chairs that we paid like so much money from a Facebook Marketplace thing. We get them in the cars. The cars won't close because the bases of the chairs are too long. There's a screw in there that you can remove. And my sister-in-law looks at me, she goes, you got a screwdriver in your car? I was like, dude, I'm going to have to turn in my man card. I don't have a screwdriver anywhere.
It's interesting because I feel like in your EDCs, I always see you with a screwdriver, to be honest.
Well, that's why. That was a defining moment for me. I have a screwdriver with me everywhere I go now because the feeling that I felt in that moment was like, dude, I'm not fit for adventure. I'm not the hero. I'm not who I needed to be in that moment. And so it's like, it's crazy when to see a story. I don't think anyone would want to. I mean, if it was played for comedy, it would probably be entertaining. But if you just had a character who everything he did was the exact wrong thing to do in an action movie, he would be dead before you could get like 3 pages in or 3 scenes in. So I think that that's such a interesting quote.
Yeah, that quote is great. It's one of the it touches at the heart of what I love about men's adventure fiction overall, where it's like that makes me want to do better and be better and just like perform at a higher level. And not that we should like always be judging ourselves and be like, you suck, do better, but like I do like a nice gut check because like it is easy to get complacent and be like, no, I'm fine. But like if you do have kind of those measuring sticks and ideals to look up to, like the people that are like far better than you because they're literally like perfect characters on a page, I think that's helpful. I think it's helpful to have those guideposts, you know?
Yeah.
Like even, you know, for us as Christians, like looking at Jesus is like, obviously I'm not going to ever get to Jesus' level, but it's a great guidepost. It's a great aim. And so same thing on a lesser degree, lesser scale of like these action heroes of like, if you want to live closer to that and be more like that, it's cool to get these stories and these inspirations and these writers who put it in such great terms and great ways that ignite the heart and like get you like that fire in the belly, the chills down your spine, like that make you really connect with that idea of like, yeah, dude, I need to do better. Like I need to do some sit-ups. I need to like, let's go. Like I love that feeling. I love the transference of energy from like pen and paper to someone, and it makes them like want to go get a workout or go start martial arts or like go train. Like that is like one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah, or like go sit in an ice bath, or go trek through the woods, or like hold your breath for as long as you can. Like just anything that's gonna make you more prepared for whatever situation you find yourself in. I think it's so beautiful. Good. I think also, and we can end with this quote: "The world would be a very safe place to live in, but would not become too dull to be worth living in." I think that that's so cool because it's like one of the big struggles that I have with the concept of going to heaven is that it concerns me that there might not be any danger in heaven. And so much conflict and danger is what makes things so interesting in my life. Like I love when I'm 40 feet off the ground on a cliff face, and if I let go of something, I'm going to slide back into the slot canyon, and I probably won't die because it's at a kind of steep grade. But I'm definitely going to not get out of the canyon because I'm probably going to break a leg. Like that risk is just so exciting, and it makes you feel fully alive. And I think that that's what this quote really like hits. Like if there were more people like this character that's described, more people like this person who's described, it would be so safe. But the person is so interesting, and they just have this like, and it comes back to men being dangerous. This inherent dangerousness that is good. That like. You never know when you're going to find yourself on the next adventure. Life is not too dull because you are this person. It's just so cool to think that, like, I don't know. It makes me want to strive to be a better man.
That's a great quote, dude. It's a great quote, and it kind of just speaks to the dichotomy of all of it. The end of the spectrum being comprehensive, right? Spencer Dutton, going back to our first episode, where it's like, if you're in a room, let's say he's in a room with, like, I don't know, like 4 guys and 4 girls and stuff, like, you know everyone's safe. Like, he's not going to just, like, haul off and start punching girls in the head and, like, throwing dudes through bricks. Like, he's not going to just haul off. He's going to be calm, cool, collected, and everyone's safer for him being there because, let's say, a tiger or something broke in, like, you know, he's going to step up and he's going to get dangerous and he's going to kill that thing for you. But, like, it's that duality of, like, him being literally a savage killer who can take down a predator, but he's not going to do. He's tempered enough and restrained enough and disciplined enough that, like, you know, he's not going to just haul off on somebody and start making a chaotic, dangerous situation because his ego was hurt, because he's been tested. He doesn't need to prove himself in some street fight. He's proved himself already. He's not looking to like make his name off of you in a street fight.
Well, even if you watch the series too with Alex's fiance, he just in the scene where they're in tuxedos at the party, that dude's just tearing into Spencer, like going crazy, like calling him all these things, and Spencer is like, and this is this passionateness that we talked about earlier. Like, he could care less. The guy calls him a coward, I think, which like historically in every other Western you ever watch, as soon as someone calls you a coward, it's like guns. Yeah. The line in the sand's drawn. The guns are being pulled. And Spencer's just walking away. And it isn't until the guy insults Alex that Spencer's like, all right, this is where I'm drawing the line. Like, I know who I am, exactly like you were saying. Like, I am a complete man and a common man, but I'm also unusual, and I stand by this code of honor, and no one's going to disrespect my wife. And it's just it's cool to see someone who was willing to walk away from insults to himself and kept all of his masculinity. Like I feel like it's so easy to see that, like, oh, if someone's just like drunk and they're losing their mind at me and they're calling me all sorts of mean names, like, it's my honor to go and fight them. It's like, no, dude, that guy literally doesn't matter at all. Why am I going to let his thoughts impact me in any way, shape, or form? I think it's really cool. I mean, that's why he was the first character in our series.
Right.
Because
He's perfect. He's great. He's so sick.
He's the best.
Great quote, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, you ready to?
I can't even do mine now. It's too good. I'm gonna end it. Bloosh. Close the lines out.
I'm excited to hear that.
So the last one, again, this isn't from Men's Adventure Fiction. This is from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, or Nietzsche, who, I don't know how to say his name, relax. Friedrich Nietzsche something. Nietzsche.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try.
But he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. I love this quote more than any quote in the world. This is my favorite quote of all time. One, I think it was just like the defining quote that helped me out of depression and like this. I used to not be this guy. I used to be like pretty big loser, I would say, and at least had that mindset too. And like this quote really was kind of like the foothold that I needed to climb out when I understood that like the question of why is the key to so many things. And I'm talking like so many things. We could talk about personal triumph and psychology and stuff, like having the reason for what motivates you, what's driving you forward, what's gonna, give you the passion to wake up. Like when the sun comes up, what is your reason for getting out of bed? There's that. But also I use it when people ask me like writing advice and all this, like as a writer you can use it. Why is a character in this scene? Ask your character that. Why? Why did he say it like this? Why did he get upset when this, like, it'll help you with character development. The question of why and like digging into that is one of the most profound, like, powerful things you can do. There's this technique called the downward arrow, or the ultimate meanings technique, that I suggest everyone does, where if you have a question or something you're wrestling with, you can ask yourself why, and you answer that question, and then you answer that question by asking, okay, well, why that? And then you get another answer. You say, well, why that? And you're really digging deep, because it's so easy for us, even as people, to delude ourselves or lie to ourselves, or like keep certain things hidden. But if you keep digging, you keep pressing, and like, well, really tell me, what is it about this? What is the reason? And you get to that ultimate meanings. It'll help you unlock further truths about yourself. So just in general, I don't want to keep ranting on. I'm sure we'll have a back and forth, but like the question of why is very important in my life, and I found out that it's very helpful for me in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, that's very powerful stuff. It is cool. I hadn't even thought of it at all in a fictional standpoint, because it's like so poignant to real life. Like, there's so many things that we endure, and I think, like, we've talked about this before too in our personal conversations, if not on the podcast, but when you start adding more things to your life, like, there's a lot of men who are single and sad about it, but on one hand, they have ultimate freedom. Like, sure, it's a bummer that you don't have someone to come home to, but you don't have to be responsible to anyone for your money or your time or anything like that. So there's something, like, if you're okay being with yourself, enjoy that time, because eventually when you do find somebody, now you're responsible to your wife. then you have children or dogs. Now you're responsible to those. It's like everything that you add in your life makes your life better, but it also takes away some of your free time, some of your ability to do the things you want. I mean, when my wife and I were living in Colorado, she worked 3 12-hour shifts, and I worked Monday, Tuesday, was off Wednesday, and then worked Thursday, Friday, was off Saturday, Sunday. If my wife was working a 12-hour shift on Wednesday, I'd grab the dogs, hop into my car, drive into the mountains, grab like a cigar and a pipe, and just wander through the woods in the mountains for like 8 hours in the day. Then I come home, I just hang out, do whatever I wanted. Now, when my wife is working, I'm staying at home with the baby, or I'm working myself.
Right.
So I'm sitting there with my kid, and this is what I don't think people talk enough about, how like having a child can be very challenging, and I think not necessarily specifically to men, because but for me as a man, I can't speak to how challenging it is for women. But I know for me, I had such a clear mindset of how I wanted my life to be. And then when I had a kid, it was like, our daughter was 9 months old, and I'm sitting there on a day off, spending quality time with my daughter. And I'm so selfish and so caught up in my mind that I'm like, dude, I could be out like hiking right now. I could be out like filming. I could go shooting with my buddies. I could be smoking a cigar. Like this is so bad, and it's so embarrassing to admit to that. But it's literally like the things that were going through my mind. And so every time you add responsibility, it makes life more challenging, but it also makes life so much richer. I mean, Now that I've grown and gone through that, like spending time with my daughter is one of the most incredible things that I can do. And spending time with my wife, spending time with my dogs. I mean, every night my dog, my giant schnauzer Gruffy, jumps on the bed and he sleeps on the bed with me. It's like, this is amazing. And so having all these things in perspective makes this like, oh, the grueling day job, staying up late to try and write so that I can put my family in a more advantageous position. Waking up in the morning and working out, which like I like to some degree, but it's also grueling to know that for the rest of my life I need to do so many working out so that I stay fit, so that I can take care of my family. It's just to have the reason behind it, to know that I have something to fight for, makes everything that much easier. But yeah. So like I said, I hadn't even thought of it at all in a fictional sense, but that's really good too.
Dude, yeah, that everything you said, spot on, and I can fully agree with. I think young men, especially, like, and I'm sure maybe every male, it's like we have that adventurous spirit. We have whatever it is to be a man's heart, and like it is a challenge and a transition when you have a kid. Like, no doubt, for sure. Mm-hmm. I think a lot more people than are willing to admit it. When they're first having a kid, it's like you feel like almost like trapped, or like you feel suffocated in a way. You're like, dude, like what happened to like my life? What happened to my freedom? Like you said, like I used to go to movies, dude, by myself, like all the time in the middle of the week. Sometimes like go out in the woods. I would just like, and now it's like you have to plan these things out in advance. You have to like really look at the schedule. You have to balance. All right, I got a job. I got 2 kids. I got a wife. I gotta, you gotta balance these out. And then, like you said, on top of that, writing multiple books. I had to get up early to do that. I got to get up earlier to work out. And like you said, working out, cool. I like it. Rocky, awesome. But really, like yesterday, I literally was like, we're about to do my first set, and I was like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, sometimes it's terrible. Like that. Sometimes it's like that, where you're like, dude, please, I want to do anything else. But then you have to do it because of that why. Like, that anchor of why. Like, why am I doing this? Why is this important? It's not the, I want to get a 6-pack so I look good in the summer. It's not that. It's like when you realize for my why being health related, and like I want to have longevity and be around and be able to do these things, that's where it becomes, okay, now I can sink my teeth in and I can move forward. Yeah. So for you guys, where it's like, whether, I don't know what you're going through, I don't know what you're writing, I don't know what you're, maybe not even writing, but like what your goal is in life, what your aim is, whatever it is, when you find out why, and you ask yourself truly and deeply ask, why do I want to do this? Why is this important to me? And it fully breaks through the superficial and all the stuff that's easy to say, and you really find out, like, ooh, that deep, like, wound that it's touching, and you know what you're actually after, then I think it becomes easier to do the long nights, the early mornings, the things like that. Like, me and you, we stay up sometimes till, like, almost 1 doing this, because, like, this is when we can fit it in. And or not, I'm not complaining about it. I get up the next day and start writing, because like we have a vision, we know what we want to do, and that's what gives life passion. Because when I was at my lowest point and suicidal, when the sun came up and I could see the light on my wall, like that, I used to like dread that. I used to see the light and be like, dude, another day is here and I'm still alive. This sucks. I don't want to be here. I couldn't get out of bed, and I was like, I hate this world. I hate being here. And then once everything shifted and I knew why I was here, it was like the exact opposite. It was like, dude, yes, another day, let's go. Like, I'm pumped up, and I'm flying out of bed, and then I'm like, at this point in my life, I have a problem where, like, I should nap some days, but I'm like, dude, what am I gonna nap? No, thank you. I want to do some work, you know, so I gotta work on balance at that point. But then, like, you get that, and, like, you can see it, like, I'm invigorated, like, I'm pumped up, I know what I want to do, and I think that's why is so important to me, and asking people, like, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do that? And linking it back to the second quote of, like, okay, don't defeat yourself then. Don't go at it half-heartedly. You know, believe in yourself. Have a sense of value in who you are, in this goal you have, and chase after it. So that's all I gotta say. I don't need to. And I guess I'll close it out with the third quote is, do it now, because you don't know when you're gonna die. Do it now because tomorrow is a mirage. So just all three of those together can be like your like mission to start doing what you say you're gonna do tomorrow, today.
Man,
forget
the end segment, dude. So we need to sign off. That was perfect.
I'm getting sweaty over here, pumped up.
Yeah, I think let this be inspirational to you. I mean, if you're not inspired after listening to Luke just talk, I don't know what to say. That was incredible. Yeah, well said, brother.
Thanks, man. Let's get into the end segment then, right?
Sure.
Piece of gear.
It feels so hollow now. Yeah, we're doing a piece of gear this week.
Throw it back, dude. I feel like we haven't done a piece of gear in a while. This is a nice OG original piece here.
Yeah, we gotta rock it. For me, for the piece of gear I picked, and I thought this was perfect for quotes, for thoughtful times. Tobacco of various kinds. Right here, I've got some pipe tobacco. Comes in a sick tin. You can move it to a different storage container to bring it on trips. And then in here, this is a sweet leather case by my friend Stacy, Muhurin Bespoke Works. She makes really cool leather stuff. And it's got some stogies in there, dude. Nothing better than a stogie. Awesome. Sitting at home writing on a hike. Maybe you don't have your stogies. Maybe you just have a tin of tobacco, but you got $1 in your wallet, dude. Little rolling a cigarette with $1. You never know. You never know. Maybe you need that tobacco fix in a good way, because as long as you don't inhale tobacco, you can fact check this one too. It is actually not that bad for you. If you just take it in, taste it, blow it out, most of the carcinogens only affect you when you take it into your lungs. So it's something that I think every man, every person should get in the habit of doing, because it teaches you how to be still for a little bit of time, take your time, and enjoy something. So tobacco, man, can't beat it.
Heck yeah. Not that dangerous for you unless you're smoking a dollar. I would imagine that's probably bad.
Okay. Yeah, $1 is definitely a bad idea.
Say maybe just don't do the $1 and you'll be good. But yeah, good point. Yeah, it does teach you to be still. I mean, a lot of times we're pulling our phones out or doing whatever, and like our mind is just buzzing. Yeah. But if you have a cigar, it like, it's not to make it seem less cool, but like it's like that fidget spinner some people have. Like, it's that thing that, like, you know, your hands can do. It's something that like stills you enough that you feel like I don't have to do anything else. I can just sit here with my thoughts, and it allows so many more good conversations to come. Pair that with the nicotine focusing you up, like, it just really helps you just narrow in and like just absolutely crush some work. So yeah. I'm a big proponent of pipes, cigars. I'm way more of a cigar guy. I like pipes, but I definitely seem to gravitate more towards cigars myself. I only have one pipe and stuff like that, so I need to get more into it because they're sweet. The problem is you make pipes look so cool, right? I'm looking at your Instagram every time. It's like, dog, I'm like, I need to get a pipe and look as cool, half as cool as Nathaniel, because you got the outfits and the pipe every time, and I'm just, wow, look at me with my cigars, dude. What a loser. So I gotta up my game.
Cigars were my first love. I just find now that, so the cool thing about pipes versus cigars is if you like start smoking a cigar and you get tired of it and you just stop, that cigar will go like beyond a point of redemption after like 15 minutes. Like you go light that bad boy up again, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like terrible. Whereas a pipe, there's actually this technique in pipe smoking where you load up your pipe, you light it up, you take like 3 or 4 puffs, stick that bad boy right back in the cabinet and let it sit for a day. And changing the temperature of the tobacco and pulling the smoke through changes it a little bit. It's called the delayed gratification technique, and it kind of mimics aging of tobacco. So almost all tobaccos benefit from being aged for a while. That's why, like, if someone has a really good cigar and it's like 10 years old, it's gonna smoke phenomenally. It's just gonna really like blow your socks off. So that's why I've been going more to pipes than cigars, because there'll be a night where I'm like, oh man, I got like 45 minutes. I can load up. I can try and like smoke half of a cigar or like 2/3, and then I'm like, then I feel bad throwing away the extra. I mean, a cigar is like $8, so the extra like $2.50 I'm just chucking in the trash. That feels bad. Contrary to me saying roll your tobacco in $1 and burn it up, I actually don't like burning through money like that. Man, what a terrible idea.
It would be cool in a book, though.
It would be cool. Or maybe like some receipt papers, if you had those in your wallet.
Don't do that either, dude.
I think would be
on that. Stop trying to smoke things that I mean, dude, do like a, I don't know. Dude, don't do that.
That's why you got to have your EDC notebook, and you can rip a page out, and that would be probably
That
fun.
would be okay.
Still probably not.
I'm sure it's not, but
yeah.
It'll work.
All right, but there you go. Tobacco, it focuses you. Tastes good. I wouldn't do it if it didn't taste good. Like, it looks cool, and this comes back to the thing. Don't do things because they look cool. Or just to look cool. Do things because you are cool. Just be cool.
Right. Just be cool, man.
But yeah, I think learning the habit of smoking a cigar, even if it's once a month, or smoking a pipe, it's going to force you. And that's what a lot of people say, oh, smoking a cigar or a pipe relaxes me. It's like, no, probably what relaxes you is sitting by yourself, holding like an implement for smoking and just enjoying your time by yourself and allowing your thoughts to kind of run through. And if you partner that with like some journaling, like Luke's talking about with the Vipers and Red Rocks challenge, like that will just set you up for so much success. I mean, if you took, and this is kind of like the tobacco is a means to an end, and the end is sitting for an hour and a half and just being by yourself, reading, writing, thinking, good stuff to get your mind kind of centered. Reading some good quotes even.
Yeah,
listening to the Men's Adventure Fiction. Couldn't hurt. Worth giving a shot.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, but I'll digress.
All right, my piece of gear is motorcycle outside. Whoa. That was very loud. I don't know if you heard that, so I'll start over. My piece of gear is going to be get yourself some boxing gloves. Even if you don't go to a boxing gym, you don't box. Boxing gloves are super nice to have because I know some people won't do this. You can do this. I have done this. Using a tree as a heavy bag is phenomenal. People might be like, no, my wrist, that's a horrible idea. If you wrap your hands and put gloves on, you're going to be fine. Also, you can control how hard you punch. You don't have to, like, Mike Tyson the tree. Just absolutely break your knuckles. But either way, like, if you've seen Creed, like, the opening of that, he, like, punches a wall. You don't need a heavy bag if you have gloves. And gloves also, buy 16-ounce gloves. You're putting a pound on your hands. So then your shoulder, you're getting a nice workout. I think it's a great thing to have. And it'll get you boxing, and that's kind of the means to an end, right? Is getting boxing gloves will get you boxing, and I think I've been on this train lately of getting back into boxing myself and trying to get more people to do it because it's one of the best workouts you could ever have, and
man,
connects to the Men's Adventure Fiction spirit fully.
Yeah, I mean, ever since you told me to start, I used to not mind my jumping rope. I do 15 minutes of jump rope 5 days a week. I used to not mind it. Now I've got to do every 3 minutes of jump rope. I got to do a minute of shadow boxing. And dude, at the end of that, I'm literally like sweat's dripping off me. I'm having a hard time keeping my hands up.
Yeah, now imagine a pound on each hand.
Oh, no, dude, don't do it to me. I can't imagine. I already said I didn't like doing it.
So yeah, that's my piece of gear this time is boxing gloves.
Yeah, that's a good one, man.
But, dude, more important thing that I want to end the episode on is the fact that this episode is going to be released on Nathaniel's birthday. So we got to give him a nice shout out in the comments. Tell him happy birthday, dude. Tell him that he's the greatest, because he is. And I just wanted to thank you personally, Nathaniel, for doing this with me and building the community and doing the Discord. Like, you're a legend, dude. Like, I'm so honored to know you, and like, this is so exciting. Haven't met you in person yet to get your autograph, but but you're so sick, dude, and I'm so happy that we're doing this together. And happy birthday to you, early on our end, but when this releases, happy birthday.
I appreciate that, brother. Exciting news is I can drop a comment on if I could do the 28 pull-ups in a row.
Yeah.
Here's hoping I can. And now if I don't tell you, if there's no comment about that, I have failed miserably.
Or you are the editor of this show. If this magically disappears, dude.
That's true. We'll never know until this goes live. But yeah, thank you so much for the birthday wishes, my friend. Very happy to be every year that I get older, I think. I mean, it just cuts right back to what we were saying. Life's going by, man. I don't feel that much older, but one step closer to 30, one step closer to 50, one step closer to 100, one step closer to the grave. It's a little ominous, a little depressing to end on, but it's just more inspiration to keep pushing for the things that you're inspired for. Keep fighting for that why. Keep trying to be that man that Raymond Chandler talks about.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. It's cool. It's cool getting to...
You're living up to it, man. You're living up to it.
Thanks, man. And I can't... I mean, you thanked me, but it's just so cool. I remember when you posted that post with the mentally I'm here. My first thought was like, dude, he tagged me in this comment. Like, this is the sickest thing ever. If I'm ever scrolling through pulp images of like these incredible badass dudes fighting bad guys and around beautiful women, like floating in from the top of a bank vault in to steal the money, like, and I'm tagged in that, dude. What have I done right to have that honor? So it's so cool to be sitting across from you, talking about this genre that really, like we said, it's getting people to read. It's pulling them into a better lifestyle, and
you're creating friendships, dude. Creating friendships. We and I are like straight up great friends now. To talk every day because we both like Louis L'Amour books. You know what I mean? Like however this started, it's so good. So yeah, happy birthday to you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
All right, guys, be sure to comment happy birthday or I will personally be pissed. And
he's gonna come after you with those 16-ounce.
I'm gonna get the 16-ounce gloves, man. I'm gonna get them out. But yeah, we appreciate you guys so much for joining us for another episode, and we will see you in the next one. Stay adventurous, my friends.